Welcome, everyone. You are about to embark on a journey through the universe as you indulge in this extraordinary essence of enlightened, empowered, evolved. Let the show begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just in time. Greetings, everyone. I'm Luke Bryan Smith, and welcome to Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved, where we educate, motivate, and liberate you through enlightening dialogues, empowering music, and evolving content. I know everyone's doing well and everything is unfolding perfectly. I'm excited yet again, and I won't even go through all that because you already know why. My next guest is a science-backed relationship coach, published gender dynamic social scientist, founder of the successful In Love Method, ex-regional VP of a global behavioral science firm, and podcast host with guests like John Gray of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Wow. New York Times bestseller, Marci, Shimoff, and Christina Tracy Stein, daughter of renowned Brian Tracy. Amazing, and a whole lot more. But without further ado, allow me to introduce to you Katarina Polonska. How are you doing today, Katarina?
I'm good. I'm good. What a lovely intro. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I just want to say before I proceed any further that I believe that time is one of our most precious assets. And for you to choose to spend a moment, a segment of your time here with me in the history of your timeline on Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved, I just want to extend my sincerest gratitude to you. Thank you very much for being here today.
Of course.
Yes. So let's just get right into it. There's just so much. Let's start here. You're a science-backed relationship coach. Give us a little insight on that.
Yeah, so I'm quite nerdy and I love to follow data. I love to look at the science. I love to kind of dig deep and to understand why are things the way that they are.
Right.
And when it comes to relationships, I think that there is so much bad advice out there and just general pop culture nonsense that actually really leads us astray, right? If you think about what people have grown up with,
Right.
Hollywood narratives, what their mom and dad told them about love, all the stuff we see in the media, fairy tales. I think we've all been very conditioned to have a lot of false ideas around what it takes to have a healthy, happy relationship.
Right.
And so, what I love to do is to really apply science. I mean, I'm a social scientist, and to really look at the data of, well, what does a healthy relationship look like? How do we actually get there? What are the different components of it? Right. And that helps us normalize the things that maybe feel tricky as actually, you know what, this is normal for every relationship and we all have to go through it. And it also helps us understand how do we get out of difficult situations. And so I just love having it as a toolkit and a framework within which I like to do my work.
Mm, amazing. And thank you for giving us a bit of a backstory on how, you how relationships, are people misconstrue, yeah, that, and then how
Mhm.
you led up to now. So have you always been interested in that, or is it something that a defining moment that made you want to be a relationship coach?
Yeah, great question. I would say I've always been interested in love as a concept,
Right.
probably fueled by my own wounding and childhood patterns of not having enough of it. But I've always been interested in it. And
Okay.
I was always fascinated by the dynamics between men and women, right? Like how we communicate, how we relate with each other. And as I kind of left university and went on into my professional life, I was really into personal development. So I had a very different career. I was actually in the wine
Mm,
industry at the beginning, but always doing personal growth. My
mm,
parents had a
right.
pretty painful divorce that I ended up mediating, and that was
Mm,
hugely both challenging and educational for me. And so
right.
I did a lot of retreats. I did a lot of different work with different coaches. I was always doing this work. And
Amazing.
I think that kind of the tipping point was having done all of this work, and my
Mhm.
father's a coach, right? So I've kind of grown up in this space. And I got my first coaching qualification when I was like 17 or something.
Right.
I I figured that love would be easy for me, right? Because here I am. I've done all this personal growth. I'm a mindfulness teacher, I've been to all these retreats, blah, blah, blah. Like should be easy. And what's so interesting is around the age of 28 when I met my ex-fiance and I got into this relationship and, we were kind of heading towards marriage. I realized I didn't know anything about relationships. Didn't matter all the stuff that I'd read, all the personal growth that I'd done. I found it
Right.
really hard. Quite frankly,
Right.
I was really anxious. I really doubted myself a lot of the time. I really questioned, am I doing the right thing? I was second guessing myself all day, every day. I was quite needy. Oh, I was a bit of a hot mess. And what's so interesting is when I talked to my friends about this and I kind of began to look for help, I realized a lot of people were feeling this way. And a lot of the advice that I was getting felt very superficial, It was kind of like, here's how to lock the man down and get him to commit and all this kind of very clickbaity stuff. And I'm not going to lie, I fell down the clickbait. I was buying all these programs and trying to understand what's going on. And needless to say, it did not help my relationship. We ended up going to marriage counseling, and that, kind of dragged on for nearly a year. And in the end, I concluded that I had to walk away and that it wasn't the right relationship for me. And when that
Wow.
happened, I was in my early 30s by this point. I, wanted kids, wanted a family. And it was probably the most humbling and frightening thing I'd ever done, right? Because
Mm.
as someone who's very type A, very high achieving, I built my life with this picture perfect narrative of how I thought it would be to
Right.
then walk away from an engagement and call off a wedding and have all of that
Wow.
stress was really quite scary. And so at that point, it dawned on me that it didn't matter how much personal growth I did, didn't matter how much I meditated and all the self-help books I read. Knowing how to have a healthy, happy, secure relationship was a whole different thing.
Right.
And so that's when I decided, come rain or shine, even if I ended up single for the rest of my life, I wanted to understand where had I gone wrong? How had I contributed to the problem? And how could I avoid making that same mistake again? Because as a woman with a biological clock, I didn't want to waste more time. And so at the time, I was working in behavioral science already, and I was actually working for a big coaching company. So I was very lucky that I had a very big learning stipend, and I ended up reinvesting all of that into growth, into learning, to understanding where did I go wrong and what should I have done differently, and where was I actually acting from a place of wounding and my old childhood patterns. And as I dug deeper into this work and really kind of unpacked attachment theory and relational science, I then got to these pretty big conclusions that I began to embody and practice. And honestly, I was a hermit for about 11 months. Well, not quite 11 months, probably about 7 months. I was a hermit just in my apartment in London, working away on myself. And then I got to this point where I was feeling pretty good, happy, if I never met anyone again. I was just like, I feel good in myself, I love myself, I've forgiven myself, I feel very secure.
Yes.
And lo and behold, at that point, I met my now husband. And
Wow.
so it was when we began dating and I realized I wanted to leave corporate. And I
Mm.
thought, I want to help other people get this clarity. I want to help other people become secure as well. I started building my coaching business. I never thought I'd become a coach. I had such resistance to the term. But here I am helping people and I love the work. I love my clients. So
Wow.
long may it continue.
Wow. Thank you for giving us that beautiful insight. And, something that stood out, everything stood out to me, but especially when you talked about, I can resonate so much with doing a lot of research and studying, and I've read many books, but it's different applying it in real time, real life. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that and for showcasing that yes, it takes more than just
Mm,
the studying and you still might not have it right.
yeah.
And that's what I think, in my perspective, how people are even going to relate to you more as a coach is because of how much adversity and that you've went through. You've did studying and books and all this, probably courses, and it's still something still wasn't right. There was still something in your intuition that told you like this isn't right, and you dug even deeper. So that's amazing, and you can now apply what you've been through to really help other people and to relate to them. And I think that's awesome. I always say during my show that in my perspective that the best coaches are those that have went through so much themselves because they can really understand and relate to people on a deep level other than just, and I'm not knocking anyone because I don't know everybody's path, and people have different ways of getting, you know, to their destination, and who am I to knock anything? But it's just from my perspective, it resonates with me when I speak to someone and they share with me their testimonies of how much they've been through so much, and then I can say, oh, just like me. So
Mhm.
amazing. Thank you. Also published Gender Dynamic Social Scientist. What is that? And
Great
it
question.
was through the University of Oxford, right?
It was,
I
yeah,
don't want
yeah.
to leave that out because that's prestigious right there.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
give us a
Thank you.
little insight on that. Published Gender
Yeah.
Dynamic Social Scientist. Okay.
Yeah. So honestly, it all actually started my undergrad. And I mean, the origin point of this is so interesting. So it's studying men and women, right? Studying men and women, studying gender identities like masculinity, femininity, and
Mm,
actually all came about in my undergrad when I was dating my ex at the time, who was, he's going to hate me for saying this, but he was a privileged white guy,
right.
tall,
Right.
handsome, from an affluent family, had everything going for him.
Right.
And yet, when it came to finding a job, he really struggled. And when it came to kind of feeling confident in himself, he really struggled. And I
Mm,
think he struggled with his kind of sense of self in the world.
right.
And in the end, we ended up separating because he ended up joining the army, and I didn't want to be an army wife. And all of that to say, it got me really curious around masculinity and what did it mean? And how was it that these quintessentially privileged guys are feeling really quite lost in the world. So I did
Mm,
my undergrad studying masculinity, and it
wow.
was so interesting. My goodness, it was so fascinating. And I ended up publishing my paper there, my thesis.
Mm,
And
wow.
when I went to Oxford, which was probably, I think it was like 6 or 5 years later, to do my master's degree,
Mhm.
I did a degree called Women's Studies. So I actually studied kind of to the flip side, I was studying women and femininity. And the reason for that was, I'd had anorexia twice in my life, and I was really curious around why is it that anorexia is so common amongst women? What's that about? Like, where does that come
Mm,
from? And why does it typically happen in Anglo-American communities, right? So I really
mm,
wanted to unpack that. So again, social scientists, I'm really interested in where do these different phenomena come from and what's the conditioning behind it. And so what's interesting is as I started doing my master's degree, I kept coming back to the same question of, but what about masculinity? And why is it that this problem seems to be getting worse, right? There's a lot of, Andrew Tate risings and a lot of folks out there who don't necessarily have the healthiest of views. And so that's again what I ended up studying for my master's degree. Really, it's kind of, I think my title of my thesis is like Lost White Men,
mm.
right?
Wow.
Why are they lost?
Powerful. That, that
Why are
that'll
they
gra- that'll
disenfranchised?
grab attention right there.
Yeah. And I was actually studying in connection to sexual violence in particular. So
Wow.
I was really looking at like where does sexual violence come from? So it's a pretty dark topic. But all of
Mm,
that to say, I spent, a whole year really unpacking communication, unpacking gender identities, unpacking what does it mean to be masculine, what does it mean to be feminine. And what's so interesting is when we think about relationships, and you go onto Instagram, you go onto TikTok, oh my goodness, the amount of stuff out there on,
hmm.
this is how to be a feminine woman and seduce a man and how to
Right.
be a masculine alpha. And I literally like, oh, my soul dies a little bit because
Hmm.
so much of it is really oversimplified
Hmm.
pop culture clickbaity material
Right.
that's just designed to grab attention, right? And
Absolutely.
actually, my philosophy is that we all are humans.
Hmm.
And yes, you have your identity. I'm
Right.
obviously, a woman and I identify as feminine. But we are more than just that, right? We are so much more than just that. And actually, when it comes to love and being healthy and happy and secure with a partner, looking at, the masculine or the feminine traits is a bit of a red herring,
Hmm.
actually. It can
Wow.
really lead us astray.
Yes.
And it's kind of like band-aid solution. And often that's where a lot of the toxic relationships come from. So all of that to say, I study this and I'm pretty passionate about debunking I haven't actually done enough of the debunking. I need to get on there and get onto social media and start yelling from the rooftops. I just think there's so much toxicity out there, and it
Yes.
just leads people astray.
You know, wow, that's amazing. And I'm not sure if I'm even making any sense here, but I'll just add my two cents, so to speak. You know, I've come to a point in my journey that I you're right. There's so much out there, so much.
Hmm.
And if you really don't have a strong mindset, you can be led, yeah, to a lot of
Yeah.
different, yeah. But what I was saying is, I've learned, and I'm still learning to embrace uh, my feminine and masculine energy. Now I know I'm coming from a masculine energy, but I'm okay, embracing the feminine energy
Oh,
as well,
you have
you know,
both. Yeah.
and don't have to feel as if I'm, homosexual or anything. Not saying that there's anything wrong with homosexual, but that's
Hmm.
not me. But at the same time, I'm okay. I think I'll give an example. Um, I think paying attention to detail in a lot of ways, and with the way I look, and I could probably attribute that to feminine energy. I don't know
Yeah.
the way I
Yeah.
dress, but I'm okay with that, and it's 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 funny, and I'm sure you've run across this too. People are quick to label something. Oh, he must be gay then, and it's like, wait a
Hmm.
minute, we all have masculine and
Of
feminine
course.
energy. Quit coming with these
No,
false
it's
narratives of what's the correct masculine, what's the correct feminine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
It,
yeah.
it's precisely that I'm rallying against because if you look at the basis of a healthy human being, yes, they have a blend of both energies, right?
Right,
And
right,
the crux of the problem is that when we look at the English language, the idea of the masculine and feminine energies, which really are just energy, and we
right,
can call them energy A and energy B. They have nothing to do with your sex or your gender,
right,
nothing to do with them, right?
right.
They're
Yeah.
just energies, yin and yang, doesn't matter what you want to call it. And unfortunately, the English language is so limited that it's conflated the energy with the gender identity. And so
Mhm.
now there's this very two-dimensional, superficial, narrow-minded view that unfortunately the media does propagate that
Right,
says if I have masculine energy, which just means being disciplined, being
right,
structured,
right.
having good consciousness, like
Logical.
logical, I have all of these things,
Right, right.
right? That doesn't make me a man. Of
Nope,
course, it just
not at
means that
all.
I'm a fully integrated woman, right? I have both energies inside of me, and I will
Absolutely.
decide where I use them, like when and where I use them. At work, I'm definitely more in my masculine energy. Of course I am. I have to be structured, I have to be logical, I have to be rational.
Absolutely.
But when a client is crying with me or offloading, I might go more into my feminine and bring that empathy and that love and that compassion. But then I might get back into my masculine and bring some structure to it, right? And kind of rein it in. We go in and out of both energies, and anyone
Absolutely.
who tries to reduce themselves to the energy of their gender identity, it's kind of like chopping off half of yourself,
It is.
right? And this is
Yes.
how we get the toxic masculine and the toxic femininity,
Thank you.
because we're just devoid of the full spectrum of our humanity. And it's a load of rubbish.
Thank you.
Terrible.
Yes, thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying that. You
Mm.
said it better than I could, but yes, that's basically what I was trying to say
Yeah,
in
right?
regard to myself. Yeah, so it's
Mm.
fine, and I'm you catch me at moments where you can oh, that's kind of feminine energy. Okay, I'm fine with that. I
Yeah.
still know I'm a man. You
Of
know,
course, who gives a crap? If you didn't have any feminine energy, you probably wouldn't be running a very nice podcast. You wouldn't be
absolutely,
talking about, being empowered and evolved.
absolutely,
Like
absolutely,
you need
absolutely.
both. You
Yeah, and
couldn't,
absolutely, and
yeah.
it's kind of ironic, and I'm not afraid to say this, but you know, people have come to me and think that I solicit uh, majority women, and that's not the case. It's
Mm,
majority of women that end up resonating with me and coming,
yeah,
but it doesn't mean that. And I'm fine with that because I love hearing
yeah.
the woman's perspective in her femininity and masculinity. So it's fine.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so there's no explanation that I can give to people. It's like, no, I'm not sitting here sending out all these requests just to women. I do just as many men. It's
Yeah.
just more women reach out. I don't know. I don't even try to put a label on it and figure out why. It's, oh, maybe more women like to talk. Maybe more men are, or maybe it's this competition thing. I don't know. I'm not even going to try to put it.
Yeah.
I
Does
just
it
said that. I
matter?
just said those things for context. But no,
Yeah.
I don't try
Yeah.
to figure it out. Nor is there any negative energy in regard to
Mm,
it. It's just I accept. I go with the flow. It's who's meant to
absolutely.
be in my paradigm is here. So
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
So yes, that's amazing. So you're the founder of the successful in love method. Give us a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that really became so clear to me as I was doing this inner work was that you can learn all of the theories. You can, go on Instagram, you can read every personal help book out there. You can know all about love languages, which actually have been discredited, FYI. You
Love
can learn all of
languages.
these
I love
different,
that book. I'm sorry for, but
yeah,
what is that? What's that name of that book? The
the
something
five
love
love, the five love languages.
Five love languages. Yes, a friend of
Yeah,
mine and sorry to cut you off, but a friend of mine from Australia uh, uh, turned me on to that book and said, "Get
yeah,
this
yeah,
book, Brian. This
yeah.
is what you need right here."
It's a great theory, but actually, it's
Yes,
actually scientifically been debunked. Like it's actually
yes.
doesn't have legs,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But the point is that there's so many of these like scientific, like quote unquote scientific books and strategies, and you can ask ChatGPT what to do. Everyone's asking ChatGPT about their relationships, and that's all very good and well. But if you haven't done the inner work to clear out the unconscious blocks that we all have when it comes to love and intimacy and connection, it doesn't matter what you do. Everything is going to be fraught with failure, right?
Mm.
Which is why I spent, 10, 15 years in therapy talking about my problems, talking, feeling like I understand everything, I know everything. Rationally, yeah, I get it. I have abandonment issues. I didn't actually do anything about it on a deeper level, though. And so the thing that I found was really missing in so much of the work out there, 99% of the work out there, is we don't actually do that deeper inner work to clear out those unconscious, specifically subconscious blocks that are actually preventing us from being able to connect with other people, to have true intimacy, right? And
Mm.
so
Wow.
much of the work that I do and that really helped me was actually deeper subconscious work, right?
Yes.
Self-hypnosis, working with the body, like somatic processing, cognitive reprocessing, all of these different tools to really shift those deeper layers that hold us back. And when you've shifted those and cleared those, that's when everything will actually click. And you can go learn the strategies, you can go do whatever you need to do and see the results actually happen, right?
Right.
So in the Successful in Love method, I built a three-step process
Okay.
to doing exactly that. Number one, we liberate you from all of your unconscious blocks. And now most people, again, will think, I know what my blocks are. I'm an avoidant, or I'm anxious, or I have a fear of intimacy, or I have abandonment wounds, whatever it might be. That's not
Right.
enough. We need to
Right.
go deeper. We need to actually see what the root cause blocks are. There's probably going to be anything between 10 and 25 of them. So we need to identify them very clearly, and then we need to apply different subconscious mind hacking techniques to clear them out at their root cause level. Once we've cleared them out, we move to the second stage, which is reconnect, where we reconnect you to who you are authentically deep down, so that you can know what are your needs, who are you at your core, what's actually going to work for you long term, what's actually going to make you happy long term. Most people have no idea. They know what they want, right? They know that they want the 6'3" guy in finance, they want the nice car, they want the income, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wrong with that. But what
Right.
do you need beneath that? Why do you want all these things? What's the proxy, right? Like these are the proxies rather.
Right.
So, and you can
Wow.
only really tap into what you need when you've cleared out the blocks that are preventing you from connecting to what you need. I had a client earlier today who was like, I really struggle to make a vision of my ideal career and like my ideal life. I'm like, yeah, because you're blocked. It's our second session together. You're still blocked, dude. Like we need to
Yeah.
clear out the blocks
And
first.
there's some blocks in there, and excuse me, that
Hmm.
we may not know. I'm a big fan. You're speaking my language when you start to refer to the subconscious mind.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
started out with me with a book by a gentleman by the name of Joseph Murphy, The Power of
mm,
the Subconscious Mind. And
yeah, yeah,
just now I know there's things in there, like you said, consciously we may, know what our blocks are, but
yeah,
there's some things in there subconsciously that you didn't know that are hindering you. And
yeah.
for you to be able to dig deep and identify those, I'm saying this, in in regard to what you do to
Hmm.
everybody here, that is a big step right there towards
Yeah.
success in your life. And when I say success, I'm not just talking about monetary. I mean success in being able to just successfully be a accomplish things in life and
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
goals and being successful, internalizing your emotions
Yeah.
and why you do this and why you keep having these failed relationships.
Hmm.
It applies to all areas in your life when I talk about
Yeah.
success. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's
it's
the
amazing.
foundation. It's the
Yes.
foundation, right? And I see it now in my business, like I've been building a business for a couple of years, and all of those unconscious blocks that I had around my relationships, which I'd cleared, I'm still seeing residue of some of them,
Mm,
right? They're popping up in my business. So of course I
mm,
continue to do the work. I'm not a
right.
multimillionaire yet, so I'm going to keep doing that work until I've reached the income and the philanthropic levels that I want to reach. I'm going to keep doing that inner work. And so steps one is liberate, step two, reconnect, and then step three, we create strategies that are rooted again in science. So, I'm trained with the Gottman Institute. There's tons of other relational techniques we can use, good communication techniques, boundary techniques, all of these different things in order to actually get you to where you want to get to. But we can only do that third stage, creating those strategies after we've cleared the blocks and got clarity on what you need so that you trust yourself. Because most people don't trust themselves on a deep down level. They doubt
Right.
themselves,
Right.
right?
We.
And that's why they struggle to get what they really want in life. They're
Mhm.
blocked, they don't trust themselves. So, of course, life's difficult for you. Of
Right.
course, your relationships aren't working out. Of course, you don't have that incredible marriage and the income that you want and all the other
Hmm.
things. You have to clear the blocks first.
Yes.
And so that is exactly what I do in my method.
Yes. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. And you also use your ICF in integrated attachment theory accredited.
Yeah,
What is that? You also use hypnotherapy too, which I'm
I do.
familiar with.
Yeah.
And my friend that I was talking about from Australia, yeah, that's how I really connected with her because I had her on the
Mm,
podcast and also I did a few hypnotherapy
yeah.
sessions with her, and then yeah, but amazing. ICF, what is that? And integrated attachment therapy accredited. What is that?
Yeah. ICF is, I believe it's the biggest international, well, it's called the International Coaching Federation.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
it just means that I have my ethics, that I've done my training, I've paid for the program. I'm
Oh,
not
okay,
just a,
okay.
godforsaken coach of the internet. I've actually done the multi-year training. And
Okay.
then integrated attachment theory means I specialize in attachment theory. So anyone who knows about, avoidant attachment styles, anxious attachment styles, I specialize in that. So I like to bring that into my work a lot, specifically when we're working on clearing the blocks and adopting healthy strategies. I
Mm,
just find it kind of adds a good lens of clarity to this work and makes it less ambiguous and more kind of tangible for people. So yeah, and then yes, absolutely. I'm a hypnotherapist. I actually became a hypnotherapist about 17 years ago. And I do apply it with my clients, but I tend to teach them how to do self-hypnosis
mm.
because that is, in my experience, much more effective
Oh,
than
okay.
them depending on me, right? I will do
Mm,
it, but I don't like clients becoming dependent on me. That kind of feels like a therapy model. So I like
right.
to teach them how to actually apply it for themselves.
Empower them. And
Absolutely.
hey, that's part of that's in the title of my
Absolutely. Yeah.
podcast,
Hmm.
empowerment. So
Hmm.
that's amazing. So
Hmm.
you've been coaching since 2007. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most of your clients, if not all, are mostly professionals.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I do
So
have a couple of stay-at-home parents who I work
mhm,
with. But yeah, generally speaking, it's professionals who are pretty, high achieving type A. Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. So that is amazing. Uh, would you like to share while we're here any audibly any links that people can
Yeah.
check you out, click on, or of course I'll incorporate it into the
Hmm.
actual description of this segment when it's uploaded and everything so that people can just go to the description and click. But while we're here for someone that might be listening to the radio
Yeah.
and listening to this on Spotify or something, yeah, share with us a
Yeah.
link or so, or two or three or four.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the best link to go to start is going to be my homepage. So www.katarina, Katarina, Polonska, Polonska.com, all one word. And on there, on the homepage, I have a 20-minute free masterclass where I walk you through the methodology, how it all works, common pitfalls I see people going into when it comes to their relationship. It also applies to your career as well. So, I mean, if you're even vaguely interested, definitely tune in for that. And then when you actually click on that link, it'll take you through to an 11-minute video where I talk a little bit more about the specifics of the program. So you kind of get both with that link, and it's on my homepage.
Wow, absolutely fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Be
Cool.
sure to click that link to look up her website, especially you high achieving individuals out there that can use some more clarity. Uh, because even in my perspective, I've been fortunate enough to connect with a lot of high achieving people, business wise, and in conversation, I can still tell that they have things that are hindering and blocking. They've made the financial um, goals, but then there's other things that are missing. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, so that they have blockages there that
Yeah.
I really am not equipped or to tell them what it is. I have my own blockages I'm dealing with, but someone that specializes in that, like yourself, amazing. So
Yeah.
yes, I just encourage all you high achieving gentlemen and ladies out there to connect with Katarina, and even if it's just to be inquisitive,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So yes, is there any uh, else that you would like to share that I might have missed before we conclude this segment? We're down to
No,
about
you're
5 more minutes, but yeah, you
Yeah,
can
no, no,
share
no.
anything or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely check out the masterclass. I've been told that it's packed with value and packed with really good learning there. So if you want to learn more about relationships, you want to learn more about how this all works and what the successful in love method is, what the behavioral science of attraction, which is kind of the deeper methodology that I work with, is, then definitely check out that masterclass. And I guess the final thing I'll leave people with is that you all deserve to have healthy, happy, secure, and meaningful relationships. You do. And you are capable of it. You just need to move the needle a little bit on clearing out those blocks, which doesn't have to be hard or scary when you know how to do it. And I can help you with that.
Wow, amazing. And I was gonna just leave this off, but I'm gonna say this here, and I won't say any names, but there's a woman that I definitely, when I get this edited and uploaded, I want her to watch it.
Hmm.
She's high achieving, but it, I don't want to say too much. High achieving, but some blocks are there with the
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah.
Only
We all have
from what
them.
she shared with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Hmm.
yeah. So, but yeah, she's very successful in regard to real estate and other
Hmm.
things, and
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
she has some blocks there when it comes to the relationship
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, arena. So
Yes.
I want
Yeah.
her to check you out. Yeah,
Good.
amazing.
Perfect.
So thank you very much again, Katarina, for blessing us and imparting your amazing insights, perspectives, um, knowledge, education. Just thank you very much. I appreciate it, and
You're
and
so
and making
welcome.
it sound so uh, beautiful, eclectic, yet simplified. I can
Hmm.
understand everything you said. Like it, yes, but
Amazing.
you put it so elegantly, though.
Thank you.
Amazing,
Thank you. I
amazing.
appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah, yes. You communicate. You use the English language very in a amazing way. So just yes,
Thank you.
yes. You should be a narrator of some sort.
God bless you.
Yeah, that'd be
Career number
amazing.
2. Career number
Yes.
5.
Yes, that's something else you can add to your repertoire,
Absolutely. Thank
Yes,
you.
okay. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for watching and or listening. Be sure to check out the Enlightened Empowered website, Enlightened Empowered Evolved website at 333empower.com. Also hit the like button. Check the links out. Don't forget to go down to the description of this segment and check out Katarina's links, and yeah, anything resonates with you, even if it's to like I said, to be inquisitive, check it out. Thank you, everyone. Enlightened, Powered, Evolved. See you soon.